All right, here we are, part 3. I have 10 rows in, and I have one more row left to go to finish off my project here. And so I'm going to finish it with my final row, which is working 4. My first 4 and not setting out the first 2. So my center 2, forwards 4, keeping it nice and straight, backward 4. You should find that you had exactly the amount of cord that you needed without too much excess to finish off your project. If your cords start to get too short, it's really hard to work with them. So although this does appear to be a little wasteful, I think in macrame having too much is definitely better than having too little, but this is really I think a happy medium as it relates to the length. If we would have had much less, it would have been hard to use these last few lengths. You could certainly make these in a larger sort of format, and they could become really cute placemats at your kitchen table, or maybe a little mat for under one of your favorite plants. The sort of opportunities are endless with what you could do. You could make 2 big panels like this, and you could create a tote. You can make a smaller version of this and make a handle for the tote. So once you master a concept, it's really cool to start visualizing what else you might be able to do with that technique. Okay, so there is my last square knot. So you can kind of manipulate it and you get it to be what you wanted it to be. So they are sort of the same size. But both of these cords were 3mm cotton cord. It could also have to do with maybe this one was a little softer, the cotton cord, and this one was a little more hard. Yeah, so that cheaper cotton cord is definitely a little rougher. Okay, so our next job that we have to do is determine how long we want our kind of tassels or our fringe to be. And so I'm going to do that sort of figuring out by first starting to remove my work from my hanger. So I'm going to do that by cutting the loops right through the centers. You definitely want some good sharp scissors. Thankfully these are sharp. I definitely have a lot of pairs that I use for macrame that aren't sharp, and it is very frustrating. So let's get this hanger out of our way. Hopefully that'll stay up. You know, as with any art, you want sort of balance. And so for me, like, these tails don't make sense, right? They feel way too long. But as we've talked about before, give yourself a little too much rather than too little, because once it's cut, you can't add it back on, right? Maybe if I turn it this way, I'll feel better about it. I shared with you before too that cutting is my least favorite part of macrame, because I think it's probably similar to cutting hair, right? Where you've got these fibers and they want to kind of do their own thing, sort of like human hair maybe, and getting them to be where you need them to be when you need them to be there. They're just a little ornery. So see how I've got this one that's a little too long, so I can go in there and give them a little trim. Okay, now I want to do a similar sort of length, right? Nothing is perfect, but a similar length on the other side. And so you could either do some measuring, right? I have a comb here. I'm going to talk about combing out, but it's approximately this long, or I could even pull my ruler back out and say, oh, it's exactly, 2 inches in length. So this side needs to be 2 inches in length. I think I'm a little more free-spirited, and I comes to measuring, but you do whatever you are comfortable with. All right, super. Okay, now you can see, so these pieces are really too small to do anything with. We've talked about before saving longer pieces. Maybe you could do something with them. So maybe a piece like this I would save, but any of these scraps that are, you know, I definitely would get rid of those. Or you could put them in a little container if you have kids and they could use those to make hair on a mixed media sort of artwork. Okay, I have some pieces that are definitely not the same length, but I want to talk about fixing those in a minute. So you can't really use a comb like this, right? Because this is 3mm cotton cord, but it's also 3-ply. So I have, you know, these strands that are sort of twisted together. And so what I like to do, everyone is different, right? Maybe you really like the way this looks, and so you could invest some time in just getting that nice and straight, you know? Maybe once you untwist these, you really like the way that these kind of like little wiggly guys look, kind of dangling out from the ends of your coaster. And then there might be a camp of us, a group of us that really like the idea of combing it out. And it's all up to you. You are the artist. You get to make the decision about how your work is finished off. So I'm kind of untangling these little 3 individual strands that comprise what is this 3mm cotton cord, and I'm straightening them out. So once I have them more like this, this is the state that I would start to comb at to get something like this. So combing is definitely easier done when the fibers have been separated from each other. Okay. Oh, isn't that pretty? Which is really funny because if you have these macrame projects at home, it's almost like adding a kid to your family, because you do periodically have to go in there and give it a brush because if you don't, you end up with this work around your home that looks very tangled up. All right, there. So let's watch me do this one. So, you know, if you have a table maybe at home, that really watch the surface, you know, because these combs can really leave some, you know, scratch marks depending on what surface you're combing on. Sometimes we'll use old books, all respect to the library, right? But we'll use an old cover of a book as sort of a tool to comb on top of. But see, now you can start to see these little fibers marry together. Now, if you like the, oh, that's beautiful to me. You like this idea of this type of fringe, but you don't like the idea of the waviness of it, you can even take a spray bottle, you know, that just has water in it. Maybe it's for a naughty cat at home. Maybe it's for your kid's hair because it gets flyaways. And you can spray these little fibers down, and they really become very tame after you spray them with water, and they really will lay nice and flat for you, more like this one over here. All right, so that is the idea behind this project. One last thing before I go. This is the time, right, after I've combed this, where I would go in here and I would really be very careful and thoughtful about cutting it. Because even after you do a comb, I don't like the ends of that, right? See how these seem very tamed and trimmed? This is like hair that needs a good trim. So you can really kind of use your fingers, maybe like your favorite hairdresser, and take your fingers in here and really give it a nice straight, blunt, cute cut for fall. And then once that lays down, oh, it'll start to look really nice. All right, guys. Thank you for joining me again. I really hope you like this project. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. I'd be happy to support you in any way I am able. See you later. Bye.